There is a sound right now being made in millions of homes across the planet that your brain is biologically incapable of ignoring. It is not a bark, it is not a growl, it is a cry, and somewhere inside your skull, a circuit that is older than language, older than fire, older than the human species itself, just fired without your permission. You did not choose to feel concern. You did not choose to get up from the couch. Your body simply obeyed. And the animal making that sound weighs perhaps 4 kilograms. It has no words, no theory of mind that resembles yours, no concept of manipulation as you understand it. And yet for the last 10,000 years, it has been quietly, invisibly, hacking into the single most protected instinct in the mammalian brain, the instinct to save a crying infant. You call it a house cat. But what if the story you were told about how it got into your home and into your nervous system is not just incomplete, but almost entirely backwards? The paradigm shift, the classical assumption in evolutionary biology, was that domestication is something a species undergoes, passively, at the mercy of human selection pressure. We bred the friendliest wolves into dogs, generation after generation, until the animal that remained bore almost no resemblance behaviorally to the wolf it descended from. We selected the calmest cattle, the most docile horses, the most productive hens. In every one of these cases, the animal is the object of the process, not the author of it. Humans hold the leash of natural selection, and every other species simply responds to where we pull. But the cat presents a serious problem for this model, because nobody selected cats for anything. There was no breeding program in Neolithic Anatolia. No farmer chose the calmest, most obedient wildcat and bred it forward while culling the rest. Genetically, the domestic cat's brain, skull, and skeletal structure remain almost indistinguishable from its wild ancestor Felis libica, the African wildcat. If you compare the two side by side, anatomically, you would struggle to tell them apart. And yet somewhere in that 11,000-year timeline, the vocal cords of an entire species began to drift. Not toward louder, not toward more aggressive, not toward anything you would predict from a predator refining its hunting communication, but toward one specific acoustic signature that happens to match something deep and ancient in the mammalian brain, the cry of an infant in need. This wasn't imposed on the cat by us. This was, evolutionarily speaking, the cat's own strategy, arrived at with no architect, no intention, and no plan. The deep dive. Here is what actually happens, acoustically inside a cat's throat, and it is worth sitting with the specifics. A standard cat meow, the one used between cats or directed at other animals in the wild, sits at a certain baseline frequency, low and relatively unremarkable to the human ear. But researchers studying domestic cat vocalizations, directed specifically at humans, found something different. Many cats, especially when soliciting food or attention, embed a high-frequency cry within the lower-pitched register of a purr, a cry that lands almost precisely in the 300 to 600 hertz range, the exact range known to trigger an involuntary caregiving response in the human brain, the same range as a crying human infant. This is not a coincidence of biology. This is the exploitation of a pre-existing neurological trapdoor, one that has nothing to do with cats and everything to do with us. Human parents are wired, at a level beneath conscious thought, to respond to that frequency with urgency. It activates something close to a limbic alarm. Cortisol rises. Attention narrows to a single point. The auditory cortex flags the sound not as a request, but as an emergency requiring immediate resolution. This circuit was built by evolution for one purpose only: to keep a helpless, vocal, utterly dependent human infant alive during the first months of life, when a baby has no other way to signal distress. It was never built with cats in mind. It was never built with any other species in mind. And somewhere along that 11,000-year cohabitation, cats that happened to produce sounds closer to that frequency, even by pure genetic accident, got fed faster, got let inside sooner, got tolerated longer, and bred more successfully as a result, simply by living close to humans who couldn't help but respond. The humans in this story were never choosing the friendliest cat. They were being selected, unconsciously, by the cat that had stumbled onto a hack for the human parental instinct. This phenomenon is called functional mimicry, and it isn't limited to sound. Consider the kitten's face. The flattened profile, the oversized eyes, the rounded skull, the shortened muzzle. This is neoteny, the retention of juvenile features into adulthood, a trait cats share with almost no other adult predator on Earth. Human brains respond to this exact constellation of features. Large eyes, small nose, round face, high forehead, with what researchers call the baby schema response, the identical mechanism that makes a human infant's face trigger protective instinct and warmth in an adult brain, regardless of whether that adult has ever had children of their own. Cats did not evolve these features on purpose. In any conscious sense, evolution doesn't work that way, but natural selection doesn't require intention. It only requires that a trait improves survival odds, and this one did, spectacularly. And it worked in ways that changed the animal itself. A wild African wildcat is one of the least social felines on the planet, solitary, fiercely territorial, largely indifferent to other wildcats outside of a brief mating window. But the domestic cat, shaped by thousands of years living alongside humans, developed something its ancestor never had, an extended, flexible vocal repertoire used almost exclusively toward us and almost never toward each other. Adult cats do not meow at other adult cats in the wild. Kittens meow at their mothers, briefly, and then that behavior fades. But the domestic cat kept meowing, indefinitely, into adulthood and directed it again and again at one specific species, us. That distinction alone should unsettle you. It suggests that somewhere across those thousands of generations, an entire species developed something close to a private language, evolved specifically for one listener, refined through millennia of humans unconsciously rewarding whichever individual spoke it best. The philosophical climax. So who domesticated whom? Species altered its own vocal biology over thousands of generations in order to bypass a competing species' most protected neurological defenses, the instinct to protect a helpless infant. Is that submission or is that strategy? We like to imagine the story of domestication as one of human mastery. We tamed the wolf. We tamed the horse. We tamed the cat. It fits comfortably into the narrative we prefer, one where humans stand at the center of every transaction with the natural world, shaping it according to our will. But the cat story suggests something closer to a negotiation, conducted entirely below the threshold of language, in which the currency was never obedience. It was sound, a frequency, a waveform, shaped generation after generation, patiently, blindly, to fit a lock we didn't even know we were carrying inside us. There was no moment where the cat decided this, no conscious plan spanning 10,000 years, no strategy session in some Neolithic granary. Evolution doesn't work in intention, it works only in whatever happens to survive and reproduce. But the outcome is functionally identical to what you would expect if it had been engineered on purpose. A small, solitary predator that quietly rewired its own biology to make the most social, most nurturing species on the planet unable to walk past it without stopping. Every time you rise from the couch because of a sound barely audible over the television, you are not responding only to affection, or at least not to affection alone. You are responding to an ancient circuit built for something else entirely that a small animal has been quietly, patiently, biologically fine-tuning itself to trigger for longer than recorded history has existed. The cat never needed to understand you, your language, or your intentions. It never needed a plan. It only needed to sound, for one half-second cry, exactly like something you could never ignore. And somewhere, right now, one is doing it again.